What is up, everybody? It's Dynamic here, and welcome back to another MLW video. Now, today we are going to be talking about some playoff predictions I have for the MLW, as we are now in a 5-team tie in the MLW standings. So slate 5 is going to mean a lot of playoff implications. It's going to be super entertaining, and some of these teams are definitely going to be going down to the wire. So if you want more MLW videos, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, as I'm going to be putting out MLW videos about 2 to 3 times a week. And while I'm talking about that, I might as well mention that we did hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, which is just insane for an MLW adjacent channel, not involved with the MLW, that only talks about MLW. To hit 1,000 subscribers is something that I never thought was going to happen to this channel, but it did, and I'm super thankful, and I'll make a whole video about that sometime later this week. But I really think that this takes precedence, as this 5-team tie going into slate 5 is something that we've never really seen before in the MLW. So here are my slate 5 and playoff predictions for the rest of the season. So as you can see, like I mentioned earlier, there are 5 teams that are all tied with each other. Those are the Predators, Eagles, Magic, Diamondbacks, and the Wildcats. And in that order, they are listed, you can see on these standings, as strength of schedule and the record compared to the other teams tied. Both things apply when talking about that 5-team trade. What I'm not going to sit here and do is talk about every single outcome that these teams could go through, because that would literally take hours. I mean, teams could be getting swept. They're playing some teams that aren't in the 5-team tie, obviously. So there's so many different possibilities that really all 5 of those teams could be in a situation where they're out of the playoffs, kind of out of nowhere. Now, I think the team that everyone is looking at, or the series that everyone is looking at, is the Diamondbacks and Predators series. As you can see here on the slate 5, that they play each other, and that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting when talking about which team is going to make it into the playoffs, as those are the only 2 teams stuck in the 5-team tie that are going to be playing each other. Other than that, as you can see from the schedule, the Wildcats are going on to play the Gators, the Mallards will play the Magic, and the Cobras are going to play the Eagles. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to this schedule. It's not super simple, and there only being 2 teams that are tied with each other that are playing in slate 5 makes it really complicated when talking about which team is going to be making it into the playoffs. But I'm going to give you my predictions for what I think is going to happen right now. So starting with the Cobras and Eagles series, I really think it's going to be hard for the Cobras to make the playoffs, but I do think it's going to be possible. I do think that this is a really good deal for the Eagles, though. They're playing the Cobras without Drew Davis or Justin Esch, and I actually believe that the Cobras are going to take one of these games. I think it's going to be like a game 1 that they're going to take, and then the Eagles are going to kind of wake up and win 2-1. However, that might not happen. I think that this series could easily be a sweep for the Eagles, who are pretty hot right now, and the Cobras, especially since they have traded Drew Davis and Justin Esch, are shorthanded. And yes, they have Stephen McGlade as a game 2 pitcher, but he's not really the greatest game 2 pitcher either. So I do think this will either be a sweep or a 2-1 victory for the Eagles, but I'm going to say 2-1. Then we get to the Wildcats Gators series, which is obviously a really big series for both teams. It's going to be hard to say what's going to happen. I really like the way the Gators are playing right now. They just had a really hard-fought series with the Diamondbacks, so it's hard to say what is going to happen. So I'm kind of 50-50 on this one. I think it could go either way. I do think the Gators have a better chance, though, especially considering that they play better towards the end of the season, and the Wildcats tend to kind of fall off at the end of the season, as that video I was talking about. So I think that the Gators will take this series 2-1. Then there's the Predators Diamondbacks series. I know the Predators looked really good in the last series, but so did the Diamondbacks, so both these teams are going to be a little hot. I'm just a little bit shaky on whether or not that the trade for the Predators is going to mesh super well. They didn't have Brendan Russell or Rudy Ramirez, so the Predators still have a lot of decision making to be had when it comes to this series and who's playing. So for that reason, I think the Diamondbacks are going to win this series. I don't think they're going to sweep either. I don't think that Ryan Crouch will let them sweep. I think that the Diamondbacks will win 2-1. And then there's the Magic Mallard series, which is going to be a really tough series for the Magic. Obviously, they're not going to be having Grant Miller on the team, which is going to hurt them, but I think they're going to have a couple players come back against this hot Mallards team. But the Mallards do struggle for some reason against teams who are momentum driven. So this is a really hard one for me because I could really see the series going either way. I could see the Magic winning 2-1 or the Mallards winning 2-1. But it is difficult. I just think that the Mallards are the better team right now, and I just have to go with my gut and say that the Mallards are going to win this series 2-1, even though I really do believe it could go either way. So this is what it looks like when all those records are added up. As you can see, the Gators have the number 1 seed, the Mallards have the number 2 seed and the tie over the Diamondbacks after what happened on opening day. They also have the tie over the Eagles because the Diamondbacks beat the Eagles, so the Mallards automatically get that tiebreaker as well. Now, where things get really interesting is the 5, 6, and 7 spot, because if the Magic find themselves tied with the Predators and the Wildcats, it is a disaster situation for them. Now, you might be sitting here and asking, wait, this makes no sense because the Wildcats were on the bottom of the tier when it came to all the teams they were tied with. And yes, while that's true, the Wildcats have the worst record off of that 5-team tie as of right now. If this scenario that I've created were to happen, the 3 teams tied are the Wildcats, Predators, and Magic. And if you guys don't remember, the Wildcats actually beat the Predators and the Predators beat the Magic. So it's the same situation that I have here with the 2, 3, and 4 teams, the Mallards, Diamondbacks, and Eagles. It's just now with the 5, 6, and 7 teams. And since the Magic sadly lost to the Predators, they would actually be the ones out of that playoffs. So they really want to make sure that they are not tied with teams like the Predators or the Wildcats, teams that were able to go and beat the Predators. If they're tied with the Diamondbacks as well, the Magic would kind of slide down to the 7th spot, because losing to the Predators in this season is kind of a nightmare scenario, and that's what the Magic have brought upon themselves. So that's something that I think is really interesting. But now let's talk about the playoffs if this was to happen. So the first game would be between the Diamondbacks and Predators, a team and a matchup that are going to be playing each other in Slate 5, so it's kind of hard for me to predict this game without seeing what happened in Slate 5, but I do think that the Diamondbacks are going to sweep if they get in a playoff scenario. They just have so much more experience. That Predators team is really new, and even though I know I just said that I think that the Diamondbacks are going to win that series 2-1, I think if they played each other again, that the Diamondbacks would sweep. They just looked really, really good in that series against the Gators, a team who I think is one of the best teams in the league right now, so I see the Diamondbacks sweeping a series like this. Now we have the Eagles versus the Wildcats, a series that had already happened and it didn't look too good for the Wildcats. Like I said before, whenever the Eagles and Wildcats are going to play, it's pretty much predicated completely on the pitching. How hot are both of the pitchers? I think that the Wildcats would put up more of a fight this time, but I still think that this series is going to go to the Eagles 2-1. So then now we have the 1-seeded Gators versus the 4-seeded Eagles, and I just don't love this matchup for the Eagles personally. I think Dallas Allen really brings a lot to the table, especially when it comes to pitching, but I think this Gators team is too deep. They're hitting too well. I think they're going to see Dallas really well, and I actually think they're going to sweep this series, so I have the Gators sweeping the Eagles 2-0. So then we have the number 2-seeded Mallards versus the number 3-seeded Diamondbacks. Now, I think this is going to be the best series of the playoffs if these two teams match up, but I'm just not a huge fan of the Mallards right now. I just think they're going to trend downwards. I didn't like what I saw in the last series. I thought it was a little bit concerning, and I think that the Diamondbacks are going to get the better of the Mallards. They have all that experience. They have a ton of depth, and I think the Diamondbacks will win that series 2-1 to go on to play the Gators in the championship. Yep, Jimmy Norp versus Sawyer Bean, two teams that are really deep. They've been playing well all year in this hypothetical scenario, and I have the Diamondbacks winning the championship. They're the team I picked at the beginning of the year to win. They're the team I picked at the midpoint of the year to win. I just really, really like this team on paper, and that last series has been giving me a lot of confidence in them to win. I'm not a Diamondbacks fan by any means, but I do really think that this team has what it takes to go and win the championship. So I think they're going to win that championship 3-1 against the Gators. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe. We are now officially on the road to 2,000 subs. So if you like MLW content, make sure you guys subscribe, and I promise you guys won't miss out. I'm going to be coming out with a lot of pretty interesting videos. Also, thank you guys again for 1,000 subs. That's just crazy to me. I can't believe that we did it, but we did. So obviously the grind can't stop. Thank you all for watching. Love you guys. Peace.